Okay, here's a thought. What if you felt like you were climbing this massive mountain, only to get to the top and realize the mountain was you the whole time? It's a really powerful idea, and it's the core of what we're digging into today from Brianna Wiest's book, The Mountain is You. She basically argues that our biggest challenges, they're not out there, they're in here.
I mean, it's such a universal feeling, right? You set a goal, you're all fired up, you make this perfect plan, and then something inside just stops you. It resists, and before you know it, you're right back where you started. So, understanding that resistance, that's exactly what we're going to get into.
And the premise is stated right there on the cover: transforming self-sabotage into self-mastery. The book's core argument, and it's a big one, is that the single biggest thing standing between you and the life you actually want to live, well, it's you.
So, let's start by reframing this whole challenge. It's not about some physical mountain out there we have to conquer. Nope. The real mountain is the one that's inside each of us.
So what is this mountain? The book defines it as that internal block. You know, the thing that stops you from living the life you consciously say you want? It's really just that gap, that space between where you are right now and where you truly want to be.
And the book makes a really crucial point here. Look, having a problem once in a while, that's just life. We all deal with that. But when you find yourself facing the same problem over and over and over again, when it's chronic, Wiest argues that you're not really facing the world anymore. You're facing yourself.
And this all leads us to a really pivotal idea in the book, which is a complete rethinking of what self-sabotage actually is. And trust me, it's probably not what you think.
Okay, this right here is the game changer. The old way of thinking is that self-sabotage comes from being weak or hating yourself or just not having enough willpower. But the new view? It's completely different. It says self-sabotage is actually a coping mechanism. It's our brain trying, in a very misguided way, to protect us by meeting some deep unconscious need for safety or just what's familiar.
So really, it all boils down to an internal conflict. On one hand, you've got your conscious desire. I want to get healthy, or I want to start that business. But on the other hand, there's this unconscious desire pulling you back. Maybe it's a need to stay safe, to avoid the possibility of failure, or just to stick with what you know. And that's the part that holds you back.
And this brings us to such a key takeaway. All that stuff we beat ourselves up for, the procrastination, the bad habits, the resistance, those aren't the real problems. They're just the symptoms. The real issue is some deeper unmet need that's driving them.
Okay, so if our so-called problems are really just symptoms, how on earth do we find the root cause? Well, the book argues we need to look at our emotions. Those triggers, the things that really set you off, they're not your enemies. In fact, they might be your most valuable guides.
Just think about that for a second. What if all those negative emotions you feel, what if they were actually messengers? Instead of fighting them off or pushing them down, what if you actually learned to listen to them? What are they trying to tell you?
Let's take anger, for example. So many of us are taught that anger is a bad emotion, something to get rid of. But this book reframes it completely. It says anger is a guidepost. It's a signal flare, showing you exactly where one of your boundaries has been crossed. It's basically a call to action.
And then there's jealousy. Oh man, that feels awful, doesn't it? But again, what if it's not a flaw? The book reframes it as a compass. That little pang of jealousy is actually pointing directly at something you secretly, deeply want for yourself, but for whatever reason, you're just not going after it. And finally, regret. We tend to look at regret as this heavy sign of a past failure. But again, let's flip it. The book sees it as a powerful motivator. Regret isn't really about what you should have done back then. It's a super clear signpost showing you what you absolutely must do or create from this point forward. I mean, this quote just captures that idea so perfectly. Our deepest struggles, the things that have wounded us, they aren't random. They are the very things that end up pointing us toward our purpose, toward our path, and ultimately toward our biggest growth.
All right, so if our emotions are the guides, how do we actually learn to read the map they're giving us? Well, that's where emotional intelligence comes in. Think of these as the essential tools you're going to need for the climb.
And the book's definition is pretty straightforward. Emotional intelligence is just the ability to work with your feelings instead of against them. It's about really understanding what an emotion is trying to tell you, and then, and this is the important part, choosing a healthy way to respond. And it even gives us a really practical 3-step framework for this. So first, you just get clear. What actually happened here? Why am I feeling this way? Second, you validate your feelings. It is okay to feel angry or sad or jealous. Don't judge the emotion itself. And only then, once you've done those two things, can you move to step 3, determining a course correction. What can you actually do differently to get a better outcome next time?
Now this next part, this is the master skill. This is like the final boss of emotional intelligence. It's learning how to disconnect what you do from how you feel. It's realizing you don't have to feel like doing something in order to actually do it. You can learn to act based on your vision for your life, not just on your temporary feelings of comfort or fear.
And this quote just nails it. The block isn't that you can't do it, it's that you don't feel willing to do it because it's uncomfortable and unfamiliar. We get so used to our comfort zones that taking the right action can actually feel wrong. But here's the secret. You can do it anyway. Remember, action creates motivation, not the other way around.
So after all this inner work, where does it all lead? What's the ultimate goal of the journey? Well, it's not about conquering some big external force. The real goal isn't to defeat the mountain. It's about releasing everything that was built for a person you no longer are. It's about shedding those old coping mechanisms, those limiting beliefs, and those stories you've been telling yourself that were meant for a past version of you, a version that just doesn't exist anymore.
And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. In the end, the entire journey, that whole long climb, it was never, ever about mastering the mountain. It was always about mastering yourself.
So the book really leaves us with this one powerful question to think about. As you start to understand and climb your own internal mountain, who will you become on that journey?